myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is a pre-recorded show tonight. We pre-recorded this on Wednesday, and it's a big welcome to John and Supermac as usual. How are you, lads?
All right, thanks, Steve. Yes.
Nice to hear from you, boys.
Yep, great to see you, lads. And it's not coming home, John. That's been the theme this week.
No.
Unfortunately, once again, the boys of 66 are still the only trophy winners at international level. A game
So
of two
the
halves.
question
Game of two
is-
halves. Yeah, go on.
The question is, Steve, for you two boys, I would like to turn it on its head. Will Newcastle United win a trophy before England?
Oh, that's a great one. Yes,
Now,
they will. I think.
because I've been waiting for both, as you know, Steve. I've been waiting for both since 66 and 69. Now, England's got to wait 2 years at least to win the Euros. Newcastle can win something this season. Maybe. Who will win a trophy first, Newcastle or England?
Newcastle for me, Mal. What about you?
Yeah, I'll take Newcastle.
I
Yeah.
think Newcastle, definitely. I
Yes,
think
for
Newcastle.
sure.
I mean, I hope so as well.
And
I
you
hope
could-
so as well.
Can't you feel it all brewing, though?
I can with Newcastle. I can't
Newcastle,
with
yes.
England.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just watching England against France, do you know it? The way the back four and the midfield were playing, it reminded me of Newcastle under Steve Bruce, dropping off so far, and that when I saw the 30-yarder go in, there were players that were deep inside their own penalty area. For heaven's sake, 5 of them. 5 defenders, all deep in the area, and I thought, oh no! And that's all because that somebody, and I suspect it was Maguire, who was causing everything to drop off. He's just frightened of pace, And we had that same thing with Lascelles, didn't we? Lascelles, he wanted people to come round and cover him, but he was dropping off at the same time as people were trying to cover him, and in the end, they finished up standing on the keeper's toes.
I mean, hey, listen, if we get the right result against Bournemouth on Tuesday,
yeah,
we might win it. Will be in the last 8. We might win the League Cup this season.
Absolutely.
Never mind waiting any longer.
Every chance, because I don't think Newcastle need to fear anybody.
No, they don't. I mean, the one team I would like to avoid in the draw is Manchester City away in the League Cup draw. I'm not saying I would fear them because we played terrific against them and we're 3-1 up, but I would like to avoid them. But them apart, I'm not too worried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you make of the England game, John? What did you make of the England game?
I mean, I thought the referee was diabolical, but what I want to say on top of that is that I don't want to use that as an excuse for England not winning, because that would be wrong. But I thought it was horrendous. And the idea that Michael Oliver is sent home at this stage of the World Cup before the semi-finals, and the Brazilian referee was kept on, I couldn't believe. I really couldn't believe that. So from that point of view, I was disappointed. I'm always left with the feeling, and maybe I'm being too harsh on Gareth. I mean, on paper, Gareth is the most successful England manager since Alf Ramsey, on paper, in terms of reaching the Euro finals, the World Cup semi-finals, and then the quarterfinals. But I keep getting the feeling, every time we come up against the quality side, we go out. We beat people in the group stages, etc., but we'll come up against France and we'll go out. We'll come up against Italy in the Euros and we'll go out. When we get the quality sides, we lose. And it might be heroically, etc., and we might have heartache, like Harry Kane missing a second penalty, etc., etc. But we seem to be in this rut where Newcastle United were in it, weren't they, until this new breath of fresh air has come along with Eddie and new owners and new players, and you can believe in this Newcastle side now. I mean, I said prior to us playing France that I worried about France, when I was talking on the night, not because I was worried about France, but I was worried about England. When we play a quality side, we come up just short. And we do that regularly, guys.
Yeah, we do, Malcolm. We do come up short, sadly, and it's
we
back
do.
to the drawing board.
Yeah, and like I said, I've seen a huge amount of praise for Maguire's performances, but as soon as you put somebody up against him whose speed is a threat, Maguire goes to pieces. And so playing at this level, if you have one player like that in your side who's nervous, who's worried, you'll get beat because you know that he will make mistakes. You know that he'll take up the wrong positions. And by heavens, he did it. John, I know you read the Daily Mail. Do you get the Mail on Sunday as well?
Yeah.
There is a great photograph of Chouamani's goal. And he's on the very right-hand side of the photo, striking the shot that went in. And there are 5 England defenders in the box, actually in the box. He's 12 yards outside of it.
Yeah.
Why aren't they on the edge of the box and looking to charge him down, for heaven's sake? And for me, it's because Maguire, he's dropping off all too early because he's worried about the pace of the guy that he was up against. And so we've got players in between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot when the fella's 30 yards out of goal.
Yeah, it was played back to him, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, one of the other things that bothered me, Malcolm, and you as a fan, Steve, when you're thinking about it, I mean, when the game had to be changed, I'm not disputing necessarily the starting lineup. Everything's debatable, of course it is. But I just had a feeling that when we needed lifting, when we needed the game to be changed, there was people like Grealish and Maddison for goodness on the bench that were never brought on that might have changed
he never
the
had
game.
a kick in the whole tournament, did he?
No, they've got that little bit of unpredictability. They might have
Yes.
just changed the pattern of the game. Maddison, I mean, Grealish must have been used for about 8 minutes in the whole tournament, and Maddison never got a sniff in the whole tournament. And there was a big fuss about whether to take him or not. You would think, I wouldn't have expected him to start having not been selected and only having one cap. And there was a great reluctance of Gareth to take him. I think Gareth was almost forced into taking him by public opinion in the way that Revy was with you, Malcolm, with England. When he said public opinion has got you picked, Malcolm. But
yes, that's right.
I thought Maddison was picked on public opinion and he never got on. When we needed to change things, he might have. And he was in red hot form in a very average team at Leicester. He's in red hot form at Leicester in a very average team. I thought he might have been used as a sub. I thought Grealish might have been used as a sub. We tend with sub guys to do like for like, don't we? We put on like for like. We don't actually change the pattern of things. We'll put on a right back for a right back and a centre forward for a centre forward. We don't put on somebody that's got a little bit different. When nitpicking and it's all over, I don't want to be too harsh on Southgate or on England, but I was left a bit frustrated.
Yeah, well, I was more than frustrated. I felt really let down by the way that England used their tactics against France. you didn't see France knocking it across the back. England would constantly, it went back and forth from right to left, all at the back with 11 French players in between them and in between the English back four and the French goal. Nobody was pushing the situation, and this has been the big difference with Newcastle in the way that Eddie Howe has got the tactics constructed with the team that push right up. That squeezes onto the midfield, who can push forward, and that squeezes onto the forwards, who can really get into the back four, the opposing back four. But as soon as you drop off, you get big spaces between the back line and the middle line, and so the midfield players feel that they have to go back and link up with the back four, and so they're playing the game 80 yards from the opposition goal, and it's all too much, absolutely too much. Harry Kane, he was playing one up front, and there were times in the game when England got possession and there wasn't anyone within 60 yards of Harry Kane. And yet the French, they just kept squeezing and pushing, and they stayed so organised, all in a compact shape.
We've also got to remember, Malcolm, that French team was missing about 5 or 6 of their top stars. I mean, the centre forward that plays in Real Madrid, he was out. Pogba was out. There was several players of their side missing, and if you'd taken, say, 4 players out the England side, like like Kane, Foden, Saka, where would we have been? It was in a way it was the time to play them.
You could have put Wilson up front, because I don't think that Kane had a good competition
tournament. No,
that's all. He really didn't, and that's the time to bring Maddison into an attacking midfield role. Grealish out wide, and I felt from the word go before a game was played that with those first 3 games, all 3 games in a week, that it wouldn't have hurt for England in those first 2 games to play one side in the first game and play all the other players, because it's 2. The squad is 2 to every position. So that in the intense heat that they were experiencing over there, then it gives a full recovery time of a whole week for each of the players. But
anyway, I get more excited about looking forward to Newcastle United than looking back to England. Come on, you Geordies, get the old mags back in action, and let's get amongst them. We've had 6 wins on the trot, Newcastle, including the penalty shootout, because that was a win in the League Cup. Otherwise, we wouldn't be playing on Tuesday night. 6 wins on the trot. Normal service about to be resumed on Tuesday when Bournemouth come, because Saturday's a friendly and we needed to get fit, but in the great light of day, it doesn't count. It starts on Tuesday and then Boxing Day with Leicester. And I'm genuinely looking forward to that, aren't you, Steve?
I am, but the last question I'm going to ask you about England is Gareth Southgate, John. Does he stay or does he go?
Terrific question. All the press, all the national press, and it's quite interesting, this, isn't it? All the national press are clamouring, every top writer I've seen is clamouring for him to stay. It's quite amazing how it's all of them. I think fans are much more divided. I've got to say that I have felt that his body language of late, and I don't mean after they were knocked out of the World Cup. I'm talking about during the World Cup and immediately before the World Cup. His body language told me that he was almost fatally hurt beneath the waterline, and that his heart wasn't in it to the extent that it was. And he did sort of indicate that he still can't get over the shock of being booed at Wolves. Remember when England played at Wolves in the friendlies, and he got hammered by the crowd. I think they lost to Hungary or something, didn't they? And he got hammered by the crowd. And he said, and if he's, I mean, there is a case for saying keep him till after the Euros because it's only 18 months, 2 years away. His contract expires then, so that would be the end of it. So let him run to then because it's very quick to get a new manager in and turn it all round and go and win the Euros. 2 years, no space of time whatsoever. But it wouldn't kill me if he left. I think he's a nearly man. And it sounds terribly harsh, but I think he's a nearly man. Where you nearly win something.
Yeah.
And you nearly win something. And then you nearly win something. And then you wake up and you find you've won actually out in all that time.
Same question to you, then, Mal. Does he stay or does he go? He's made murmurings this week that he's in conflict with himself. So even he's having second thoughts.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that over the next couple of months he may well resign. I think maybe he's had enough of it, and he'd be very disappointed with himself, and I think that's every right to be so, because I know we had a terrific start, winning, scoring 6 in that first game. But there was an awful lot that left question marks, I felt. And as we sort of progressed and sort of found ourselves against slightly better sides, in the second group stage, the second match of the group stage, it was getting tougher and then tougher again in the group stage, and I just felt that we were very, very good against weak sides, but when it came to when it came to a really decent side, we were too nervous, and that really concerns me. For heaven's sake, why were England nervous going out against France? Because and they really did look nervy. They looked worried. They looked concerned. And I thought, hey, come on, just get the ball and go and play, for heaven's sake. You're the top scorers so far in the competition. Get it.
I just feel, I feel, Malcolm, when you look back on that, you can hardly ever call Gareth happy-go-lucky because he's not that type of personality. But when you remember the guy in the waistcoat on the touchline when he was wearing the famous waistcoat all the time, and he was full of bounce and positivity about himself and about the team. He doesn't look a happy bunny, and I don't mean when they went out. I mean, he just didn't look a happy bunny at all. It's like...
Not in anything, not during training, not on the sidelines, during
when
matches.
He's talking to the press.
When he talks to the press. Absolutely, John. I couldn't agree more.
He didn't look a happy bunny where he was once a happy bunny. And if it's bothering him that much, bless him, put himself out of the agony of it. I mean, I think that he will either go, certainly the FA won't get rid of him. He'll either go of his own accord now, or I think he'll go in 2 years' time after the Euros. I think he's living on borrowed time now.
Well,
it's not.
If he's going to do that, in all...
No, I just meant we don't win.
Now is the time to go.
He doesn't win the Euros, so he goes. If he stays on, I still think his shelf life wouldn't last beyond the Euros. Because we would have to win the Euros, wouldn't we? To stay on,
yes.
We'd have to win. And are we going to win the Euros if we play France again if we play any of the other big hitting countries, if we play Croatia, for goodness sake, if we play any, will we win the Euros? It's not an easy ask, and you know, there's going to be a change. If it's not now, it's going to be very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree, lads. Okay, as this is a pre-record, we only know one of the finalists at the moment, Argentina. Of course, France play Morocco today, which is Wednesday, but this is not going out till Thursday. So, just a prediction, I guess, lads. You know, from yourselves, is this going to be Argentina's year, or do you think? I mean, I would assume. You know, it's a tough thing to do, but Morocco have had a really good run. I would imagine France would get through to the final. I would be very surprised if they didn't. But who's your money on, John? First up, out of those three teams, you know, would you say it's Argentina and Messi's year?
Well, I mean, it seems to be written in the stars that it's going to be Messi's year because it's the first World Cup after Diego died, Maradona. It's the last chance from Messi, who has been the greatest player in the world. At times, Ronaldo's challenged him on that, and he hasn't won the World Cup. I know Ronaldo hasn't either, but with Argentina, you always felt they had more of a chance of winning the World Cup than Portugal. I think in lots of ways it's written in the stars. He ran the semi-final, didn't he? I mean, Messi ran the semi-final. He's run totally into form. They've got to the semi-final. They've got the best support in the tournament outside of Morocco, who's every neutral's love, because isn't it a fairy tale? But you know, and it could be, if France get the final, it could be the world's greatest player, Messi, against the heir apparent, Mbappe. But I wouldn't mind. There's a lot not to like about Argentina because there's even going back to 1966 when Alf Ramsey nailed them as animals during the competition when we won it. There's a lot not to like, but Messi is also a lot to like.
Yes,
Messi is a lovely player and a lot to like. And I wouldn't be too dischuffed now England out of it to see him win his World Cup. It wouldn't break my heart.
Yeah, and the chief culprit in that Argentinian side was a fellow called Rattan.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Totally, yes. In the 66 side.
If it moved, he kicked it.
And
I went over the top on it.
Ironically, Malcolm, total piece of trivia, when our mate Berkey went out there to sign Ardiles and Ricky Villa, who were the two World Cup winners with Argentina, that broke the mold when they come to England. Who was the man out there that he met at the airport and set it all up for him? It was Rattan, the guy from '66 who was.
Was it really?
Aye, the guy Berkey met out there when he got off the plane to go and sign Ardiles and Ricky Villa was Rattan, the fella that Alpha. It's a small old world, isn't it? It's a small old world. Absolutely the same guy who was the original animal. In fact, he was more of an animal than Eric Burden.
Okay, lads, it's halfway through the show. We'll have an ad break and we'll be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors. First off, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. And thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces. They are handmade in Cumbria and you can find more information out on their website, mrvickys.co.uk. And if you want to order any, email info@mrvickys.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Big thanks to Blowhole Brewery, a new beer made on Tyneside. The cans are all designed in the colours of Newcastle United strips from days gone by. Black and white there, the purple and blue, and the good old-fashioned blue from the Entertainers' days. But get more information on the Blowhole Brewery range, such as Geordie Juice from blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things and video side of things. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who do our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe to the show, then all you need to do is click the subscribe button below. You can also hit the thumb up, which does us a favor by liking the video, and click share to your social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes and Spotify and the rest. And if you want to contribute to the show, use the QR code. It takes you straight to the membership pack and you can join the channel. What do you get for your membership pack? You get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw. You can also make a donation by hitting the $sign in the chat tonight. We also give you something for free if you subscribe to the show. To get your car sticker, email John at nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. We also support the food bank on this show. And if you want to make a virtual donation to the food bank, then go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. On our website, we've got lots of t-shirts, cups, pens, you name it, memorabilia if you want to buy it and support the show. For Christmas, we have the Bruno Christmas jumper, which is selling rather well. And we'll have the bobble hats, Play Like Almiron, Bruno's Magic, and Bruno's 39 and Joe Linton's J7. Get yourself to nufcmatters.com to buy them today. If you want to buy people a ticket for one of our events next year, we've got an evening with Steve Howie, which is Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £50 from nufcmatters.com or newcastlelegends.com. And you can also buy them on voucher before Christmas. Get somebody a bargain and a nice Christmas present. Peter Beardsley is on the 10th of February at St. Dom's Catholic Club in Newcastle. Tickets available direct from the venue. And for this one, Friday the 2nd of June next year at the Grand Hotel in Gosforth, 6:30 start. An evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford. To book tickets, contact Natalie at heelandtour.org.uk or visit their website heelandtour.org.uk/events. If you're looking for a Christmas present and people like a book, then get yourself NME from the Bender Squad to the Gremlins, or the last remaining copies of Black or White, No Grey Areas, Lee Clark's autobiography, and you can get them from www.badboysbooks.net. And guys, Newcastle United have won a trophy since we last spoke, John. Al Hilal, of course, across in Saudi, a good exercise for Newcastle, going out there on the commercial front, on the on all different fronts. But to get out there, play a game of football, give a few players a run out, coming away 5-0, a bit of silverware as well. 30 odd fans going out there to meet the owners, to meet the manager, to meet some of the players. All round a good PR exercise, John, and a good run out as well.
Yeah, it was both of those things. I don't want to talk too much about the trophy because I've hammered us winning against Cocky Leaky Juniors on corners taken to get the Northumberland Senior Cup or whatever. So we'll forget about the trophy, but it was a terrific exercise in PR. It was good to get warm weather training, and if you play, you want to win, even if it's a meaningless game. They won 5-0. They ought to win 5-0, so that's good, and that's what you want to see happen. You don't want to see it 1-1, which it would have been in the old days, etc., etc. You want to continue to do the right things, but I mean, I'm looking forward, and we don't know when this is going to happen because we're starting with a game on Tuesday, which is the League Cup, which on team selection, we never automatically go with our strongest side in these competitions. Normally, we tend to rest players and play other players, etc., etc., etc. So we don't know what sort of team's going to be out on Tuesday. But then we go Boxing Day to Leicester, then we're home to Leeds, and then we go to Arsenal in a humdinger. to welcome in the new year. What a first game of the new year that is. Arsenal v Newcastle, currently 1-3 in the table, which is fabulous. But I'm just looking forward to all our 5 World Cup players coming back into the side, and I'm not suggesting it's going to be Tuesday at all, because it won't be. But quickly to get those 5 back in, and to get the 3 people that were injured prior to the cold snap, which is Isaac, Shelby, and Maxi, to see them ready to start and buzzing as well. So we've got a full squad with our 5 World Cup players, plus those 3 coming straight back into the melting pot, and the players we already had before the January transfer window. And then that's good crack, isn't it? If we can get that going, and we don't know who's going to be available on Tuesday night, for goodness sake. I mean, we won't know until an hour before the kickoff when the team sheet's put out as to any of the 5 going to play from the World Cup. You would think that Maxi or Shelby may well start. I don't think Isaac will start on Tuesday night. But if we can get those 3 back and the 5 pretty quickly when we're playing the league games, then we're cooking on gas.
Yeah, Mal, it's it was a good exercise out there. We've spoken before about how different this regime is to the last one, and Steve Hasty, Neil Mitchell, of course, and Stu Penman, who are regulars on this channel, were out there. Got a chance to meet the owners as well. Came on the show on Friday night and said how well it had gone and how impressed they were. The club continuing to make great strides on and off the pitch.
Sure, and the board were more than happy, weren't they, to integrate with the supporters that took the trouble to get over there, and I think that they talk really constructively, from what I understand, and gave supporters a much better understanding of what the future holds. And what a change from the last 15 years, for heaven's sake, where Ashley just had no interest whatsoever in having a chat with supporters and letting them know what the situation was. And and if supporters can be made to feel that positive, imagine what's actually going on in the dressing room. We can see the positivity that's coming out of it. But it must be absolutely fabulous to be in the dressing room, out on the pitch, playing for Newcastle. The players must feel so exhilarated just putting a black and white shirt on these days.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's an amazing time to be a Newcastle United supporter, and long may it continue. As John says, looking forward to the games kicking off. The fact that England, exited the World Cup, of course, we've already pointed to that earlier in the show. Brazil, of course, not getting to the final. It does mean our players are coming back, John. It's just a case, like you mentioned earlier, of they won't play in the friendly. We know that, but it's a case of essentially getting these players fit and ready. If not for Bournemouth, certainly for the next league game, and I'm, that's the positive, isn't it?
Yeah, without a shadow of doubt. I think obviously you've got to bear in mind the 5 players on World Cup were not only training every day, but they had the intensity and the pressure of playing in the World Cup and a knockout competition and all that. So it may well be that they would be given a few days respite once they returned here, before they come back into training, just to give them time with their families, having been away for a while, etc., etc., etc. That will happen. I think there's absolutely no chance of the friendly. That doesn't matter. If the friendly isn't for them, they've been training out there, the 5 guys. They don't need a friendly. They need a rest instead of the friendly. The friendlies for the guys that have already been here. But we want to get those 5 because the 5 key members, the 3 England guys plus Bruno and Shaw, are 5 key members of the side that's gone third top. So, ideally, by the time we go to Leicester on Boxing Day, we want everybody available. We want all the 5 available, plus Maxi and Shelby, and if possible, Isaac, at least on the bench, able to come off the bench and get a few minutes. We want them back. Because once we hit the new year with a heck of a game at Arsenal, what a game that is. And then it's non-stop. The FA Cup comes into it. Hopefully the League Cup is still in it. It's the big end of the season. So we want all hands on board. And if all hands on board, regardless of any help we might or might not get in the January transfer window, we're in a healthy state. There's no question about that. We're in a healthy state.
Yeah, we certainly are, Mal, and, getting these players back in. They'll have a bit between their teeth. I saw Bruno's post on Instagram essentially saying that, he's bitterly disappointed about Brazil getting knocked out of the World Cup. He wants to put it right in 4 years' time. And to do that, he knows he's got to play to his best of his abilities, for Newcastle. That can only be good news for Newcastle.
Yeah, I think so. Considering that England and Brazil disappointingly came out of the competition, and I would imagine that the players on their return, they'll be rubbing their hands and can't wait to get out on the field and start playing again for the club. And so I think that the way the World Cup has worked out in terms of Newcastle United, I think it's gone very much in the club's favour. I really do.
Yeah, massively in our favour. It is fantastic. The Bournemouth Cup game then comes up first, John. That's probably the biggest game of the season so far, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. It's huge on so many fronts. First of all, we can genuinely win the League Cup this season. And if you don't believe that, anyone, you've just got to go have a look at the draw. Remember what the 8 games are that are there. And there's 3 teams stand out apart from ourselves, and that's Man United, Man City, and Liverpool. Now, Man City and Liverpool play each other. So one of them goes. So you can have, say, Man City, Man United, and Newcastle. And with respect to everybody else, and there can be Brighton there, and there can be Wolves there, etc., etc., etc. That is a real opportunity to win this trophy, because already Arsenal's gone, Chelsea's gone, Spurs have gone. This is an opportunity. Now, we want to win on Tuesday night because it is an opportunity to win a trophy. And I accept that the League Cup is not the FA Cup, and is certainly not the Premier League, and it's not the Champions League, but it's a significant domestic cup that we have never in 130 years have won it. Never won the League Cup. So that's the first reason why I want to win. The second reason why we want to win is having had something like 6 weeks off, and having had 6 wins on the trot before we stopped playing, and now our third top of the league. We don't want to come home in our first game after a 6 weeks absence and lose, because we can't draw. You've got to win or lose, because there's penalties. You can't draw. So if we don't win, we lose. We don't want to come back from this, because it's going to drop the mood a little bit, guys, isn't it? If we lose to Bournemouth on Tuesday, it's going to drop the mood a little bit for going to Leicester, because you're going to think, oh dear, is this a reality check? And we're not up to continuing what we did early in the season, etc. You want to win, so you set the mood again, because it's a mood setter Tuesday. Tuesday is a mood setter. It either puts us back right on top because we've won and we feel great again, or we think, oh dearie me, we could have done without the break. The break stopped it and everything's broken up. So we need to win. We need to win the game because it's a mood setter, and because we're back to where we were, and we need to win because it's in a competition we can win. And it's not the first round of this competition. We're in the last 8 if we win this.
Yeah. Malcolm, big game.
Yes. Just a question for you guys. Who would you rather Newcastle faced, Man City or Liverpool?
Oh, what a question.
In the League Cup,
Yes.
Liverpool. I'd rather face anybody but Man City. Man City would be the last team I'd want to face. I mean, I'm
It's
not
a great
scared
question.
of them,
It's a great question because we've played both of them already, and I was at both games, and I was at the home game against Man City.
Right, I just feel that the Newcastle players they would want to get their own back on Liverpool. What happened over there at Anfield in that game, which I thought was the nearest to referee cheating that I've ever come across.
And I mean, and I think Liverpool this season, and they might come strong again in the second half of the season, of course they might, are still a good side, but they're not the side they were 12 months back or 2 years back. City are the side they were still. So, you know,
John,
I think Arsenal's now more like the Liverpool of a year ago, the current Arsenal.
Yes.
You know, and I would rather feel if I drew Liverpool at home in the next round because they've beaten City, I would say, oh, I could have done with an easier side, but I wouldn't be scared. I wouldn't want to draw Manchester City away in the next round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I when Newcastle were 3-1 up and Manchester City, they sort of took that big deep breath and they started.
It came again, didn't it?
It was 15 or 20 minutes of football from them. It was sheer brilliance.
And
brilliance.
We've got to remember, Malcolm, as well, that Haaland, who was being rested throughout the World Cup because Norway didn't, he might be just ready to start belting in the goals and looking at Shearer's records and Harry Kane and all these people, because he must be itching to go, having been not part of the World Cup finals, mustn't he?
Yes. Isn't he? Yeah. And he is some he is some class act. But the way that the Newcastle back line are playing, I wouldn't be overly concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to face Liverpool. I've got to be honest. I think, I think the motivation will be there.
A bit disjointed.
Yeah, I would prefer to feel Liverpool. And you know, we say Man City and back line is exceptional. Well, I mean, it's officially the meanest in the Premier League. Yes. But what is a warning to me, guys, about that? We've got the meanest back five with the keeper, whole team, if you like, in the Premier League. But City still scored 3 against us up here.
Yeah.
So they still scored. Think of our record, what it would be, goals against, if you could wipe those 3 out in one game. Oh, blimey, it'd be sensational, wouldn't it? Wouldn't they still scored 3 against us up here, mean defence or not. They still scored 3 against us. And I don't want to face Haaland anytime soon, thank you very much. I would prefer not to do that.
We've got to beat Bournemouth, though. That's the game.
The first thing. Stephen, that's the first thing, mate. We're already talking about marching on Europe and all sorts of
things. And I see that they do.
And we struggled to beat Palace. In the last round, we're struggling to beat Palace.
And I see Bournemouth have just been bought out by an American.
Yeah, they have. They have, yes.
Another one.
They haven't had time to do out yet with the club. But I mean, the results have got a bit better, haven't they, under the caretaker manager who's now got the job permanently. The results have improved, haven't they? The caretaker manager, O'Neill, is got a few results. It won't be easy, but you see, Palace and Bournemouth have been a jinx to us up here this season, haven't they? In September, they were back-to-back, 0-0 and 1-1. Then Palace come up again, was another 0-0. And now Bournemouth's up again.
Yeah,
and
but that was thanks to it.
Here's a question, guys.
Yeah.
When we had the 2 games with Palace and Bournemouth and and only got 2 back-to-back draws. Wilson didn't play because he was injured. When we had the League Cup tie, Wilson didn't play because he was left out when it went to another note into penalties. On Tuesday night, bearing in mind we don't know what the team's going to be, but maybe Wilson won't play. I suspect that he won't. He'll be kept for Boxing Day. Who's going to score the goals to put us through on Tuesday night if Wilson doesn't play? Who's going to score? Is it going to be Miggy if he plays? Is it going to be Miggy? Is it going to be Elliot Anderson? Is it going to be Maxi? Is it going to be Chris Wood? Who's going to score the goals to put us through on Tuesday night if Wilson is rested? Go on, I'm asking you, Steve. Who's going to score?
I genuinely think that we've got goals all over that pitch. I think Miggy will continue in the same vein. Yeah. He did in the friendly. I think ASM has got a big point to prove in the second half of the season. And I also feel, potentially Chris Wood can do the business against Bournemouth. So I think we'll win, and I think it'll be a comprehensive win. I think the confidence will be there, after that trip away, and I'm going to go 3-0, John.
Oh, I love that. I really do love that, because against Palace, you've got to remember when Wilson was out the League Cup against Palace, I was convinced we'd win in ordinary time against Palace, and it was 0-0.
Yeah.
And it was 0-0, and we needed penalties. So we've got to. I think we'll win. I think, like Steve, I mightn't take 3-0. It's because I don't know what team they're going to put out. I mean, a lot of it does depend, guys, on what team we start with, doesn't it?
We're not going to have. Isak's not going to be fit. He's
Wilson probably won't play.
Wilson
probably will. Shelby probably will.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, but I think we'll win. I would probably think 2-0 without knowing the side that he's going to put out. But I do think we'll win. But we have to find somebody to score goals, because when we drew with them, if you remember, it was an Isak penalty. We were 1 down to Bournemouth in the league, and Isak equalised with a penalty. That was his last game he played for us before.
And it was well deserved on Bournemouth's part, John.
Sorry?
Being in the lead. It was well deserved on Bournemouth's part.
Well, yes, yeah. So I mean, I don't think they'll make it easy for us. But
no, they won't.
I mean, if this was a league game, Steve, if this was a league game with Bournemouth, if we hadn't played, if this was a league game, so I knew we were going to put out our best side, I would say we'll win 3-0. But it depends what side we put out.
Right, but I think it's a massive test for St. Maximin. It's a wonderful opportunity at the same time.
Yes, it is.
I just hope that he learnt and understood why Mbappe was the first choice and St. Maximin never got a look in. Because Mbappe is just so positive in everything that he does. He doesn't run into blind alleys or anything like that. Everything is geared towards making a goal or scoring a goal. And if St. Maximin can learn and understand that, then he will be twice the player that he is now.
Definitely a change in his attitude, I think, is evident, and I think he's in the last games that I've seen him play. I think he's certainly think more about his teammates, John.
Yeah, well, I think this is his big chance, and I'm talking about Tuesday night really, because I'm convinced. While we don't know the team, I'm convinced he'll start because he needs to start. And then he is our main hope, bearing in mind the team will not be 100% at strength. There might be no Bruno, there might be no Trippier or whatever. So I think this Tuesday night could be the platform to set Maxi off. And I certainly hope so. And if he's got any sense, and I think he has, I don't think he's a daft lad whatsoever. If he's got any sense, he knows this is it. Newcastle are on the up and up. He's been out injured. Don't forget what he did to Kyle Walker.
Yeah.
That was only his second last game that he started. If he produces that, he's a proper player, man. Let him go out on Tuesday night and look like that man. And he can do it. He did it against Man City, the best side in the country.
But Kyle Walker, he did so much better against Mbappe than he did against St. Maximin.
Yes, he did. Mbappe is twice a player, as you said, Malcolm, but yes, he did. Mind, he couldn't have done much worse than he did against Maxi, because if he was like a corkscrew, if he turned round anymore, he would have driven himself into the turf.
Yeah.
He didn't know if he's coming or going against Maxi. So I'm looking 2-0 in Maxi to be on the score sheet against Bournemouth.
Prediction from you, Mal, for that game?
It's always difficult after such a break as this, in the middle of the season, to get started again, to pick up where you left off. But nevertheless, I'm going to go. I'm going to go 2-1 to Newcastle, and look forward to the draw the next day.
That'll do for me, pal. That'll do for me.
Yeah, definitely do for me as well. Isaac is obviously continuing his recuperation, John. I think a lot of us expected him to probably feature out in Saudi, but again, Newcastle aren't the Newcastle of old. We don't rush players back now until they are ready to play, and that's great, isn't it?
That is absolutely correct. I wouldn't expect him to feature really in the friendly on Saturday either. I think the first possible, if I had to be a betting man, I would expect his first involvement to be off the bench at Leicester on Boxing Day, although he could come off the bench against Bournemouth, but I've got a suspicion it could be off the bench against Leicester on Boxing Day when he comes back. And that's fine. Let us keep faith. We've got third top without him. It'll be wonderful to have him back, but only wonderful if he's firing on all cylinders, and therefore he oughtn't to be rushed. It's been a bad injury. He's been out a long time. We've got to bear that in mind. And he owes it to himself. I mean, Eddie Howe won't let him come back till he's right, but he owes it to himself, doesn't he? He's still got his reputation to make at Newcastle because he's only played 3 games. Mm. He's got 2 goals, but he's only played 3 games. So he's still got his reputation to make. He doesn't want to come here as a £60 million player and be half fit. He's got to come out with all guns blazing and make an impression on his public. And therefore, I want him to be 100% fit. And if that means waiting a couple of games longer than we hoped for, so be it.
And I like that. I like that the manager has that he's not rushed Isaac in any way. He's wanting him to be absolutely fully fit, no slip ups at all, and it's the sensible way to go. I always remember when I was down at Arsenal, that the physio there, Fred Street, he was also the physio a bit later for England.
For England, yeah.
And he wrote a book. And he entitled it Fit for Saturday, because that was the only question he was ever asked as the physio. Is he fit for Saturday? Is he fit for Saturday? Is he fit for Saturday? Yeah. And there was this intense pressure from managers for physios to get players into a fit position to go and play this singular game, as if what happened afterwards wasn't important.
Even if they weren't fit, Malcolm.
Eddie Howe is quite different in his outlook, and he wants to know that that the players that he's choosing from are 100% fit. No chance is taken.
Yeah. Because if you rush him back, Malcolm, and they break down, they're out for longer this time. They're out for longer, aren't they? That is the short-sightedness of the whole thing.
Absolutely, that's right. And of course, you risk sort of creating long-term conditions,
absolutely,
if not injuries.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to when Eddie Howe is faced, not when Isaac first comes back, because when he first comes back, he'll come off the bench. That's after a long time out. That's the way he'll be reintroduced to the team. He'll come off the bench. I'm looking forward to when he gets up to speed, having come off the bench 2 or 3 times, when Eddie's got to pick his first side with Wilson and Isaac potentially in it. Because that's going to be interesting, because only Eddie knows how he'll utilize the two together, whether Isaac will play wide, whether he'll play off the shoulder, if he'll not play two up front, and because he won't risk that. It's going to be fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Indeed.
Yeah. Great problem to have. Okay, lads, that hour has whizzed by as always. We've had our predictions for the Bournemouth game as well, and just a quick one about the Christmas period. Obviously, we always have a little bit of time off, so Malcolm and John are going to pre-record a wonderful show about Malcolm's time wearing the white shirt of England. So that's a good one for you to watch over the Christmas period. And John's done his top 10 sporting heroes, which is already premiered up there for New Year's Eve for everybody to enjoy. It's a cracking show, that, where John waxes lyrical and tells us some great stories about some fantastic sporting legends that he's had the pleasure to meet and interview over the last few decades. So great stuff to look forward to. And we've got one more show though to do next week, so I look forward to getting the lads' views about the games that we'll have played since then. But John, Malcolm, thanks very much for joining us as always, and see you next week.
Indeed. Look forward to it.
Take care, guys. Merry Christmas.